guys, what's up? Episode number 10. We got a special guest. We're in his gym right now. Trainer Mike. Many of you guys watching this probably know him, and I'm super pumped for this episode. We talked about it last week. Hope you guys are excited for this. T Mike's first ever podcast.
Yeah.
Hopefully you guys enjoy. Let's get right into it. So, Trainer Mike, tell them a little bit about yourself and kind of what this facility here is and what you do here.
So I'm Mike Fleming. I'm a certified athletic trainer, certified strength coach. I actually came from Los Angeles, California, where I grew up, went to college, and my family and I moved out here in 2007. And for most of my career, I've been a high school athletic trainer, working in high school sports. I did do 2 stints in the NFL as an intern. Basically, what I've always played sports. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school: football, wrestling, track. I was a 2-sport athlete at a Division III college, University of Redlands in California, track and football. And since I wasn't going to be able to continue my athletic career, I wanted to still be involved in sports, and I've always loved anatomy. So athletic training kind of fell into my lap, and I really wanted to do a lot with that in helping future athletes, hopefully having the best athletic experience that they could. And that's kind of what's guided my career and my education pathway.
Yeah. So what do you mainly work with athletes in here?
Mostly, really you could say physically active people, because I have 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70-year-old very physically active people who hike, swim, are doing lots of different things, and they want to A, take care of an injury, or B, just improve their overall health and ability to continue those physical activities.
Yeah.
But for the most part, yes, I do see a lot of high school and then college age athletes.
Okay, yeah.
So like for like the older clients, do you like see anything in like particular that improves their quality of life with like what you do?
I think there's a few factors. Number one would be, in general, trying to break out of the old compensation patterns that these mature adults have developed over their lifetimes. And 2 is, because we're breaking out of those compensation patterns, we want to strengthen muscles that have not really gotten hard workouts in a long time.
Yeah.
And then 3 would be following up with recovery / flexibility ideas, because as you get older, tissues change a little bit just because of age. And so one of the biggest lessons as a still continuing to throw, but I'm 45 years old, I spend more time on my recovery now than I do my actual workouts, because it has to shift to a higher priority, because my body doesn't recover as well as it used to when I was 20 years old.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what are some of those recovery methods you use?
Good like flexibility, range of motion routine after your exercise, so you are flushing things out, byproducts out from your hard workout. You're getting the muscles and tendons to lengthen out again, and so they're not just hanging on to excessive tension during or after your workout's done. And then hydrating really well, good nutrition. So I really like the idea of eating whole foods.
100%.
Trying to really stay away from anything that's processed. And I'm not trying to be crazy, over the top with anything. I think moderation is a really good idea that we all need to subscribe to. But as far as like your listeners are concerned, what does processed mean? Well, if you took a whole apple versus a cup of applesauce, the applesauce has been processed in some way so that your body doesn't have to work as hard as if it ate the whole apple. Okay, so that's what we want to. We want to try and get the best foods that we can in their most natural state, so that our body has to. One, knows what to do with them, and two, has to actually work hard to process them and use them the right way.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we talk about a lot. Like,
Yeah.
I pretty much eat whole foods, and I pretty much eat a carnivore kind of diet. I eat fruits, honey, and
Yep.
I still eat white rice. But other than that, I try to cut everything else out. I also agree with what you said about how moderation is key. And the vegetables thing, I'm never going to tell someone not to eat vegetables because there's so many worse options out there, you know?
Yeah, I'm, and I think in some respects, all of us are there are people that definitely like vegetables.
Yeah.
My wife is one of them. I could care less about rabbit food.
Yeah.
I know that's a really
Same
negative
way.
comment, but
No, it's
you know what I mean? Like, it's just the way it is. There are certain greens that I like. I really like baby spinach. I could eat that every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will go into this little tangent though. I liked wrestling. I really liked wrestling. I could not stand cutting weight.
Yeah.
And I was coming from two extremes. I was coming from old school, because I went to a high school with a football tradition. We weren't the most winning team, but we had a lot of traditions, and we had a huge weight room and a lot of weight room attendance. That was, we had, that was a priority. And then I'd go to the other extreme of, I got to cut weight and make my weight class for wrestling. Both of those scenarios really threw me into a bad situation. I developed bad habits on cutting weight. And some of that was due to excessively eating vegetables, so that I would fill my stomach up with very low calorically dense foods.
Yep.
So that pushed me even farther into the realm of not liking vegetables.
Yeah, that's true.
So kids at home, maintain a good healthy weight, maintain a lean weight. You can definitely talk to nutritionists, or you can come and see me, and I can set up a plan with you. But it's important to not go from super heavy extremes to super sucking weight extremes. And so take that home.
This guy needed to hear that.
Yeah. Had to nurse him through.
Yeah, I did that a lot. I was on the same spectrum, but
They had a rule at Spring Grove that you could only be like 2 pounds or something over in the wrestling team, and then we got there.
Yeah,
And
that
then
really got blown
I started rolling around 10 pounds in, and they were like losing their mind.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
so
were.
like, did you know we did that one time?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I knew you guys. I knew it, because most of the time he's telling me, and then we had a wrestler ahead of you guys who roller coastered really bad, and I won't drop his name, but great kid. I really liked working with him. He, kind of the same scenario we all get into. We're supposed to eat. We like to eat,
Yeah.
and then we got to cut the weight.
Yeah.
And it's hard during wrestling season. So, yeah. And this is another thing. This is why I really like being in the position I'm in, coming from the past that I had. Because I was an athlete and I went through those struggles myself, I felt like I was actually on the same page with you guys, and we could have a real conversation.
Yeah.
And that's where I really come from with the whole strength and conditioning aspect of things. Is I like athletic training, but I wanted, and I thought that I could do more than what the curriculum was giving me. And that's why I started branching out and finding different certifications, so that I could do the things that I thought needed to fit into the whole picture.
Yeah.
I wasn't just stuck in this little corner.
Yeah, I think a lot of just like people that only stick to the curriculum and weren't like in super like tough sports, like like wrestling, football, and even like, you know, all sports where there's like very like specific injuries that happened, or like it's just like a lot more brutal than just going through the curriculum and reading a book.
Yeah.
When you're actually in it and doing it, you understand like what things need fixed.
Yeah.
I love athletic training. Don't get me wrong. That's why this business is built around that part of my life and my education. I just think that I wanted to be more of a resource, and so what I could do is injury evaluation and rehabilitation, but then I could really start branching off of the rehabilitation with the strength and conditioning ideas. So we got closer and closer to return to play and real athletic performance.
Mm-hmm.
And so then the athlete is healthier going back onto the field, more confident, psychologically at ease, less likely to have to come back and see me, that was always my goal.
Yeah.
I want a full weight room and an empty training room.
Mm-hmm.
That was always my goal.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think people would just fill up the training room because they like talking to you, honestly.
Yeah.
I don't know why people. Come on, you guys know I don't like people.
I guess you just attracted everyone, you know what I mean? Because people would come there, I'd swear 95% of them weren't even that hurt.
Yeah.
They were just hanging out.
That's kind of, just being in there and being around your personality and seeing how much like above and kind of beyond you would go, at least from what we knew coming from West York and seeing what they did there. And I thought that was awesome. And then, so what was it kind of like transitioning from that to this, and what are some of the benefits and downfalls?
So this is actually the 4th time I've tried to start my own business.
Okay.
And this one's actually working.
Yeah.
The 3 previous attempts were strength and conditioning only.
Okay.
And so that sort of worked as a side gig when I was full-time athletic training.
Mm-hmm.
The problem was that I felt very uneasy about this, is especially, let's say, the online strength and conditioning programs where I just sell you a program.
Mm-hmm.
You guys know how I operate in the weight room and the training room. I might not be, especially in the training room when I've got 40 kids in there, I'm doing my best to try and keep eyes on everybody. But in the weight room, which can be a very dangerous room, I really am trying to focus on keeping my eyes on everybody.
Yeah.
Technique is key, okay?
Yeah.
So whatever you're doing, technique is key. And if your technique is bad, or you're trying to really overlift, then you're going to get into trouble quick.
Mm-hmm.
And so this 4th attempt at starting my own business really came off of finally the light bulb went off. I'm a athletic trainer. I'm fully educated. I've done this for 20 years. I like doing it still. I just need a better scenario for me, right? I've gotten to that point. So that's where the light bulb went off. I said, I'm going to do both. And I'm just going to keep doing what I've done my entire career. I'll take people from the beginning, whatever that beginning point is. You just had a new injury. You're coming to me with a chronic old injury that won't go away. You're coming to me because you don't want to have a problem. Any point on that spectrum, I'm going to take you all the way to the end where we're doing some really high performance speed and explosive power work to get you ready for your sport.
Yeah.
And so that really made everything fall in place.
Yeah.
And then we started having fun, because now I'm getting to implement things that I never had the time or the ability to implement because of the scale of high school athletic training.
Yeah.
You're always busy. You've got a huge crowd. Okay. And I was actually I had my foot also in the weight room, which is not, it is, it happens, but it's not really super common for all athletic trainers.
Yeah.
So now I was like, stretching myself a little thinner in that respect. So this is fun because of what I get to do here, because I built off of that foundation of, it's just one spectrum. Starts at an injury and then ends at full performance.
Yeah.
Or even better, honestly, because some of the technology you have, and which we'll get into, you actually can like really dive deep into it and find like little minor
Yeah.
flaws.
Yep.
And it's pretty neat. When you can
Yeah,
do
that's
it.
one thing we always talk about when we were in the weight room. We were trying to deadlift a certain
Oh,
weight,
yeah.
like it was like 2 reps or max rep or something.
It was
And you come and
1
demonstrate.
rep max.
Yeah, 1 rep max, and you come and demonstrate how we should properly deadlift with this weight. And
Yeah,
me and Ivan are
with
like,
your 1 rep max.
and it was like, and you like exploded.
Yeah.
I think it was like 315 or like 285.
You repped it like a couple times.
I was showing you guys how to get your hips to go through.
Yeah,
that's what I remember
hips.
now. Yeah. It was like easy weight. It was only like 315. It was
Yeah.
easy.
No, it was
We were cutting weight there too, like.
we might not have been. I think
Yeah,
that was
maybe
just
not.
tough at the time.
I feel like you might have been.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, you want to talk about some of those new things you've been implementing? Ivan was
Yeah.
telling me about the
So-
1080 or-
Well, there's lots of good things, and really a lot of it is my programming has changed, and then we can get to the toys that
Okay, cool.
I've really brought in. So my whole programming general scheme has changed from, I've always been a movement type based guy and a multi-joint type guy, okay? I think as far as athletics go, you really need to put the body into motion. You have to do it safely because we're gonna be start throwing in external loads that you don't necessarily see as in a specific way on the field. But if you're playing football or wrestling, you're gonna run into another human being. So there's an external load.
Yeah.
Okay. Where things have shifted for me is I start everything at the pelvis. I go after hip flexors, true hip flexors, and true glutes. Okay? And when I say true glutes, what I mean is, are you getting all 3 of your glute muscles to fire in the correct timing according to a leg stride? And true hip flexors, part of your quad can have a bad compensation pattern and pretend to be a hip flexor. It does cross the hip joint, but that's not its primary job. There's a muscle that's inside the hip called the psoas major, and that's the one that I go after to make sure that you're firing it correctly. That fires correctly, it allows your glutes to fire correctly. And then from athletic movement, you want force to work its way from the center outward from the body, okay? So then, once we've got hip flexors and glutes working, then I'll tie glutes and hamstrings together. Then I'll start worrying about quads, okay? So quads, everybody likes to train quads, and I still think squatting is one of the best exercises you can do. I feel like most people do not do what's called a posterior chain or a hip pivot correctly before they go into a squatting variation.
Okay.
If you do a hip pivot correctly and really have a nice strong posterior chain is talking about everything on the back side, your erector spinae, your glutes, your hamstrings, your calves, okay? If you've got your posterior chain all strong and firing in the correct order or the timing, then a squat variation will work very well and you will continue to use your hips correctly. I ran into this problem because of, my last year playing football was the 99 football season, okay? So we were doing a lot of heavy lifting, and I definitely got to the point where I had anterior pelvic tilt because my hip flexors were tight and weak. They weren't strong, they were weak. And when muscles are weak, they will lock down and shorten on themselves to keep themselves safe. So I had short and tight hip flexors, and my glutes weren't working in the right order. They would work, but they were in the wrong order as far as glutes and hamstrings timing wise. That started throwing off my head and neck, started throwing off my shoulders, things like that, okay? So doing all these corrective measurements is really or corrective measures. So I'm doing different things to get the person to fire in a correct order. That then leads to how we can just actually, once we've done that, then I implement normal strength and conditioning principles. Okay. I've got a multi-hip machine in the weight room that I use a lot because it allows me to isolate and get that hip flexor work correctly. I've stumbled on, and now I'm a big user of hip thrust.
Yeah.
Because hip thrust gets you to use your glutes really well. Those are both kind of my primary movements, and especially the hip thrust. I've found that I got to a point where it has diminishing returns. So then I move on to like a RDL or Olympic variation, and then at the same time working on my squat variation.
Okay.
So now we talked about strength and conditioning, or strength training, and corrective strength training. Some of the other things that I have is I have a Gym Aware, which is a small little motor with a tether, and it hooks up to the bar, and I can measure the velocity of the bar when you do a lift. Okay, so like I can measure how fast you squat, how fast you do bench, how fast you do an RDL. There's some very good research on what's called velocity-based training, and I really like those concepts because now you're learning how to not just muscle through a lift, but you're learning what is a better weight for you to move than just off a percentage. And I'll explain that in a minute. Then farther down what's called the force velocity curve is I've got what's called a 1080 sprint machine. This is a machine built in Sweden, and it's amazing. Has a 90-meter tether on it, and it was designed for track and field. It's got a belt, you hook up, and then off of a tablet, I can measure and adjust all kinds of variables. Basically, as you're running away from the 1080, it'll measure how much force and how much speed you're putting into each leg drive. And then, like you were saying, is I can then see, you're not firing your left leg or putting as much force into the ground with your left leg as you are with your right leg. So now we can go and do single leg training or do some plyometrics to get that leg to fire a little faster with a little more force, and then we can kind of even you up a little bit.
Yeah.
That's currently where I'm at with a couple of my college kids that came back, definitely all out of balance, all out of whack, and so we're bringing them back to square and making everything fire in nice order. The problem is it takes time, and there's biological healing factors that have to be taken into account.
The one thing I wanted to touch on, because it took me a while to realize where you're coming at with the very first thing you said about starting from the pelvis up, because I didn't understand because we talked about this for hours the one day, and it took me a little while to understand what you meant by it, and a lot of people at least attention span wise they might zone out and not realize what you're talking about. But I guess the way I took it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but basically all of your compensation comes from when it starts from your pelvis and it's not firing right. So essentially if your hips aren't firing correctly, then your quad will start to compensate for it.
Yeah, and let's actually discuss what compensation means. If my hip flexor is not doing its job, okay, a compensation is a different muscle group basically taking on extra work and trying to do two jobs. And so now you're setting yourself up for overuse / injury.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's a really good way to put it. You are gonna think about it this way. Even though you've got your feet on the ground and you got your eyes and your inner ears for balance and stuff, right? All force absorption and force production has to happen around the pelvis, okay? So if let's say, can we stand up and I'll do a
Yeah,
little
go ahead, go
demonstration?
ahead.
Stand up for me. Okay. Stand this way. All right. Just relax. If I push you up here, you can see he can bend his trunk and make sure that his body doesn't go anywhere, right? But if I get down on your hip, look at how much, and that wasn't really me pushing very hard.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay? So now I'm an offensive lineman, and I come out of my stance, and I immediately get my hand on your hip. You're on ice skates.
Yeah.
Okay? So now that's a rough example, but I think it demonstrates how the center of gravity is very important to all athletic movements.
Yeah.
Very true.
Okay.
You feel like that's a common misconception people have, that they think it's a core problem?
Yeah. Oh, you want to talk about core?
Yeah,
Okay, here we
yeah.
go. This is my new soapbox.
Okay.
Okay. I do not believe that I ever see anybody come in here with a weak core.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now hear me out on this one,
Alright.
because this has been a very coined phrase.
Mm.
Oh, you got a weak core. You just blew out your ACL. You got a weak core. You're having ankle problems. Weak core. You got shoulder problems. Weak core. All right. It's not that the core is actually weak. It goes back to the compensation idea. What I'm saying is we need to actually, so think about, because I'm guilty all out for 20 years of doing the same thing that everybody else is. Oh, you got a weak core. We got to like strengthen it, and you got to tighten it up and brace. Okay, bracing is when you tighten up and you can take a sucker punch, right? That's bracing, right? So that was my methodology for a while. Okay, you got to brace, and that you get under a squat rack or a squat bar, you got to brace. If you brace too much, all you're going to do is tell these abdominal trunk core muscles that they need to be in a constant state of tight. Well, if you actually have to do something rotationally, one side has to be tight, one side actually has to let go and open up and lengthen out. Okay? So my new soapbox is I'm telling people we have to have very healthy reactive cores, not strong, because actually people are fine strength-wise.
Yeah.
It's the reaction to, am I getting out of position? Am I in a dangerous position? You know, can I maintain a safe position? But then once I'm done with that squat, can I walk away and actually let things relax? So that when I do, all right, so I just finished my squat workout, I'm walking out of the weight room and I roll my ankle on the curb. Can my core react quickly enough to save me, okay, so that I don't blow out every joint of my body? See, now that's extreme, but you know where I'm going, right? Because there are people that they get so stuck in their compensation patterns that they don't even, just watching them walk down the street to their car is painful. I'm like, ouch, like, relax, bud. Like,
Yeah, they're just tight.
they're just like,
Yeah.
you know, and they waddle almost.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're meant to move. We should be loose and fluid when we move, not overbound and tight and excessive tension. Tailing into that, we are much different than in this day and age than our human ancestors were 300, 500, 1,000, couple thousand years ago, okay? We have societal pressures on ourselves that are outrageous. And I think that really leads to a lot of problems too, as far as excessive tension, poor mobility, and I don't have an answer for that, except for you've got to try and create some kind of positive that gets all of that negative stress away from you. And I think you have to be careful with that too, is because you can't just keep digging yourself into a hole because you go, work out. Well, I got this super stressful job,
Mm-hmm.
and then I go work out at the gym for 3 hours a day, every day.
Yeah.
You're just putting yourself into a bigger hole.
Mhm.
Go and do 45 minutes of one set of each of your lifts. Get some great mobility work and recovery work, and get yourself to deregulate into a parasympathetic rest and digest state.
Yeah.
And then you can start improving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
This was a problem I ran into, especially when I was with you guys. My lifts actually started to have problems, and my throwing started to have problems because I wasn't handling the stress the way I should have, or as well as I should have at Spring Grove.
Was that because you just felt like in like a constant state of stress,
Yeah.
like constant cortisol? Just
Yeah, like my cortisol, if somebody had actually measured, probably would have been through the roof.
Yeah.
And
Imagine.
like I woke up, but a lot of things have gone well in this last year and a half in shifting to this scenario or this job setting. I've actually been able to address a lot of my anger issues and how I react to situations. So I liked athletic training because it was constantly changing,
Mhm.
and that was fine. What I didn't really react well to was people that really created problems for me in that job setting.
Mhm.
Okay, so no one intentionally rolls an ankle, right? Like I wasn't ever mad at a kid for rolling an ankle.
Yeah.
What I got mad at was the coaches that set up scenarios that incorrectly warmed up or didn't do any strength training.
Yeah.
And then day one of, the first day of their season, they got kids out there running all kinds of miles that they haven't really prepared themselves for.
Mhm.
So we're just like purposely blowing things up. So
Like overworking.
yeah,
essentially.
oh yeah,
Without-
without any kind of preparation.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
throwing them straight out.
Yeah,
not even
and so
getting
in that respect, and that was what I was trying. This is now kind of come full circle here. I wanted an empty training room and a full weight room, and I tried to be a resource for those coaches to do those kinds of things, so that we were preparing you athletes to set you up for success and really build a good athletic department.
Yeah.
And let's just put it this way, it was always, every day was an uphill battle. In the 6 years that I worked here, I don't remember a day not being an uphill battle in some respect.
Yeah, I could imagine.
So it was just a good time for me to go out and do my own thing.
Yeah.
And this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I bet.
It's going good.
What do you think the best part of like now having your own business and getting out of that environment? What's the best part?
Yeah, the best part is I 100% schedule my own time.
Yeah.
And for example, last week or 2 weeks ago, we went down to Alabama to visit one of my wife's best friends, and we spent the whole week down there, and it was a great trip. I was able to schedule that whenever I wanted.
Mhm.
I do feel loyal to my clients, and I actually had quite a few text messages and phone calls while I was on that vacation. But at the same time, I could prioritize my family, and we could go do that as a family.
Yeah.
Last spring, I didn't miss a single track meet for my son and daughter in high school. Whereas if I had stayed on at Spring Grove, I definitely would have had to chosen which meets to go to and which ones to miss.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's awesome.
that's the biggest benefit to this whole move.
Yeah, well, you were talking about how like things have changed. Like we don't follow or do things the same as our ancestors now. So
Yeah.
let's talk about why we have no shoes on. You know?
So we gutted this building and laid down 1,100 square feet of indoor turf. And this is a concept that I actually got in school, undergrad. we always did ankle rehabs and most of the time knee rehabs barefoot.
Yeah.
The one instructor that I had, she had gone to San Diego State athletic training program, and when she said that, it just like clicked. I'm like, yeah. So from that point on, I didn't like it as much because for ease of cleaning and things like that, most training rooms have a hard floor. So kids don't feel comfortable walking on a hard floor barefoot. So that was the first thing I did in here, as I gutted it and prepped the floor, and we put a really deep turf. This thing is, this is an 1.25 inches deep.
Yeah, you can feel it.
With a 5mm foam pad underneath it. And that's, oh, I got another sample. But what that allows your feet to do is really get into a soft tissue or soft surface, and all the fibers of the grass are hitting all these. You have tons and tons of sensory nerves on the bottom of your feet, and we have a lot of muscles in our feet that we need to really do a better job strengthening. And your body awareness in 3-dimensional space gets better being barefoot. Okay, you move more natural and a little healthier. Okay, you think about some of the tennis shoes out there. They're shaped kind of funny, and a lot of them put you up on your toe a little bit, so they got a little of a heel. Well, that's okay, except if you have an Achilles problem, because you're constantly up on a heel, your Achilles doesn't like to lengthen out, and so you start creating problems, and then that'll also shift up to your knees and pelvis too. So that's why I went with the turf.
No, I think that's awesome. I'm big on like just going outside with my bare feet on grounding, and
grounding. I definitely believe in grounding. I think there's a lot to be said for just going barefoot and walking around in nature, and because it's not. I'm not trying to be extremist or anything, but it's not too far off of what we were really designed to do.
Yeah.
You know, we weren't designed to wear shoes. Now we do, and it's okay, but we weren't designed to do it.
Yeah.
So.
And it's like when you think about when you're like super happy, you're probably on the beach, you probably don't have your shoes on. Could it be you're away from the stress of your life? Yeah, but I think there's something to be said about that.
Well, it's all interconnected.
Yeah.
At that point, you know. So, and that actually leads me to another point. Because I've de-stressed so much, and I feel like for the first time, I fully enjoyed this past vacation to Alabama.
That's
Like,
awesome.
it was great. It was the whole time, and let go of everything. I didn't have any projects that I was like, oh man, I gotta get home and I gotta finish this, right? There's none of that. And even though I had my summers off when I was a high school athletic trainer, there was still always stuff going on that I had to be a part of or getting kind of like working during the summer. So, yeah.
I mean, we talked about a ton of great stuff already, but for our listeners out there who, for say, might not be athletes, what are some things, either nutrition-wise or strength and conditioning-wise, or just overall that they can do to improve their life?
Yeah. So people that just want to be physically active, I think that's really important for your health in general. Think about the multi-facets of a diamond. There are lots of different variables that need to be involved in the whole equation. Nutrition is one, sleep is a great one, okay? And I put this separately just because it's a little bit easier, but hydration is one, okay? Movement is huge, okay? So what I try to do with some of my clients, because a lot of my clients that are older are office workers, okay? So they're gonna sit for 8 hours a day, okay? All right, so here's a strategy that we worked on with one client. Also needed to have better hydration.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, you go to the break room every hour, drink a little bit of water, okay? That way you're getting frequent and you're getting into a habit of drinking water. 2, it gets you out of your chair and you're walking.
Yeah.
3, you're probably gonna have to go to the bathroom, so there's another walk. So now we're getting you up and out of your chair frequently during the day and walking.
Yeah.
It's even better if you have to do a set of stairs. I had a client that did that. She worked upstairs at her house. So I said, okay, great. So you have to walk downstairs and then get your water and then walk back upstairs. Or go downstairs. We were working on nutrition for her to give her snack ideas so that she could actually munch on something but not really worry about putting on weight. So we did okay, you can go downstairs, get your snack, get your water, walk back upstairs. Now you're burning better calories because you're going upstairs.
Yeah.
If you get the opportunity, then you can start doing more things that are, so now, all right, so just getting up and walking in the office, okay, or walking around the house more frequently. Great strategy, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Doing things like overhead type stuff. Okay, so getting stuff out of a closet, all right, or doing movements out away from your body. That's always healthy for your shoulders. Some people's shoulders don't respond well to that because they're so used to being down here.
Yeah.
And they're so tight and rounded up, right?
Uh-huh.
So now you could also start going into, can I start doing some corrective things, okay? And that's where you can start putting together a little routine, maybe when you wake up in the morning or when you get home from work or before bed, and you just start doing some nice static stretching, loosening joints up. Static stretching, I think, is very good at also bleeding off a lot of tension that you might be holding on to psychologically.
Yeah.
Psychologically, okay, the nervous system ties in very deeply with the connective tissue in your body. And connective tissue is everywhere. It's almost as abundant as water. Okay? Connective tissue responds very quickly to the nervous system. And so you can hold excess tension in, let's say, a quad or a lat or a tricep because you had a bad confrontation with somebody at the office. So now you should try and let go of that mentally, but then physically, you should find, do I have any tight areas tonight? You should go after those and really work them out. Okay. I think another good one for just healthy habits is, and this has been probably a little bit more of a hot topic because of the COVID shutdown. We're social animals.
Yeah.
We need to have good interactions with good people. And what I mean by that is, are you surrounding yourself with people that are going to support you and that you are going to support?
Yeah.
Okay? Not fake friends who might get you into a little bit of trouble.
Yeah.
Okay? Real friends who you're going to support. Like, I know I was so excited when I heard that you guys are getting together and making a podcast. I'm like, this is awesome. You guys are doing some really good things, moving in the right direction towards your big goals at the end. Okay? So I was really excited for you guys when that happened. Things like that. There are a lot of coaches in the York County area who do, and a lot of doctors who I've become friends with over the years. They send me referrals because we're like-minded people. They're supporting me, I'm supporting them, and I'm trying to surround myself with a good like sphere of people that will be positive in my life. Don't mistake that though for challenges or confrontations.
Yeah.
Sometimes a confrontation is actually a very good thing. No, Mike, you're really missing the boat on this one, and you're going off too far in a tangent that's not really going to be productive.
Yeah.
But when you have the trust of people, you can have those difficult conversations. Okay, and then you start really making big strides forward.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think like I said, becoming healthy and moving forward, there are lots and lots of facets to that whole equation. But those are some easy ones that you can start working on.
So me and Bryce have had this debate for a while.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So, and I feel like you and I, we've brushed up on it a good bit, but our big debate is like almost what's better, like heat or ice.
So,
and we've gone on for hours about it. So
Yeah.
what's your viewpoint, and then I'll chime in with what I think. And
So,
we'll go after.
all right, let me start out with this. There is some research coming out that says that ice is not great. I'm not a big fan of that research because personally, I love ice.
Yeah.
I love icing. I love cold baths. I think some interesting things to think about though is, again, and this is kind of where this business is taking me. Where's your nervous system and where is your connective tissue system?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Different people are going to respond differently to different temperatures. All right? So I don't know if that's actually a thing, if there's a real connection there or not, but I know that it needs to be answered.
Yeah.
No, there's no connection, which I don't think is true. Okay? Or yeah, there might be some involvement with the nervous system and how well somebody responds to heat or ice. I don't know.
Okay.
The research has been trying to demonstrate what happens at a cellular level with the healing process. There's 3 phases in the healing process: inflammation, proliferation, maturation. Okay. If you talking about how we weren't designed to wear shoes, right? The argument is the body has got everything it needs to heal. That's where the is ice bad or good argument is coming from.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't disagree with that. I think again, nutrition, hydration, psychological, that all needs to be definitely involved in the healing process. Okay. And again, I haven't read up on much of this because I'm old school and I'm stuck in my ways, and I know what I like and I know the responses that I'm getting, okay, in some respects. I think if you have a massively swollen sprained ankle or massively swollen knee, okay, from a bad injury, I think you can definitely ice things down because you do, but I would also put in there that you should put in some compression.
Yeah.
And push some of that swelling out.
And either way, compression's important, whether you're in like heat
Right.
or ice.
So again, these are old curricular ideas. You apply heat too early, body part's going to swell on an injury,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So the general rule of thumb is 72 hours. You wait 72 hours, then you can start applying heat. First 72, you want to ice and compress, protect, get it all calmed down. I still really like that idea because I'm seeing traumatic things that really your body is not responding well to, and we can use some of these exterior ideas to help you cope with it and start moving the healing process along. Now, here's an interesting thing that if you think about your body, is not being taken into account, I think, as well in the research. When I ice down an ankle, does it stay cold unless you have a cardiovascular issue? Does your foot and ankle stay cold for the rest of the entire 72 hours? No. Your body's gonna warm up the area that you just cooled down because your body always wants to do what's called homeostasis. Homeostasis is an even keel. You'll have ups, you'll have downs, but the average will be an even keel. Body always wants that. So if I cool a body part down, and this is why we know that you can't cool a body part down too long. If you go too long, you trick your body into thinking that that body part is going into hypothermia, and it will flood the area with too much swelling and warm blood to try and protect it. Okay? So if you know that homeostasis happens, and you know that the body part doesn't stay cold once you ice it down because it gets heated back up, if you control that, give a little bit of ice and a little bit of cold and a lot of compression, not a lot, but like a long duration of compression, you can keep the swelling down. But now you're getting a homeostatic sine wave. Cold, heat, cold, heat, cold, heat, cold, heat. So your body's going to heat the body part up, all right? And then once you've gotten out of that, now you're into the safer window where you can start heating up. Heating up is very beneficial because now we're actually dilating the blood vessels and flooding the area with new, fresh nutrients even more than it did when it was warming up the body part. So I think as far as injuries go, now there are some injuries, for example, if you wake up in the morning with a crick in your neck, you can go ahead and put heat on that right away. So the cool thing about heat, and it is cool, is it will soothe nerves. So the nerves are angry and locked up. Well, if you put heat on it, it'll soothe the nerves, it'll dilate blood vessels, it'll loosen up all the connective tissue, it'll feel really good. Okay. There's a lot of things going on with hot and cold right now, especially like cold ice baths. Like there's some cool things going on. People are doing a full warm up. They jump into a cold bath to shock themselves into a parasympathetic state, dry off, and go run.
I've seen that.
Oh
Yeah. And that actually is working because now your body is understanding that it doesn't have to be in panic mode and fight or flight mode during your race. Okay. Again, I haven't done a lot of research on that front, but I've read about those stories and I understand why they work. Okay. And then again, the old adage of when I was an athlete, we fought over whirlpools. Okay. And because your legs felt fresher. When I was an intern in the NFL, they wanted us to dump more ice in all the little we would get kiddie pools or cattle troughs.
We got some of them.
Right? Fill them with ice water. And as soon as practice was over, the guys would come over and they just sit in it for 10 minutes. And your legs do feel better after a good ice down like that. Especially in hot, humid weather, because we were doing this we were up at Dickinson College in 01 and 02, and the guys loved it. And then they would walk around and they would just naturally warm back up and their body felt at ease and felt a little better. Does that cover everything you want?
Yeah, I think how I was looking at it, I think obviously your point with like injury, that makes total sense. I think like what me and Bryce were getting at more is like just our daily soreness, because we work out pretty much every day.
So here's an interesting part of that. Okay, when you do, let's say, a heavy squat, you have what's called DOMS, delayed onset of muscle soreness. Okay. They actually really haven't fully identified everything about DOMS, and lots of people try lots of things to head off DOMS because it's annoying as all get out. Right? Like me and my roommate in college, I remember every year we'd finish football season and we'd take about a month off and then we'd go back. And again, we were Division III, so we were doing everything on our own. We didn't have a strength coach or anything. Usually before winter break happened, we'd go and hit our first heavy leg day. And now that was extreme because it was our first day and we were dumb kids, and so we were going even heavier than we should. instead of DOMS being 3 days, it was more like 5 or 6. And we were like 80-year-old men trying to walk upstairs, right? Okay. So DOMS is, you can think of it as like micro damage at the muscle cell level. Okay. You really can't do anything for that. What you can do is you can try and do less negatives or eccentric movements, but I would argue don't do that too much because eccentrics are important to preventing injuries.
Yeah.
Okay. You can definitely do hot and cold stuff to try and ease the ache of DOMS. I don't know that it's going to get you very far.
Yeah.
See, that's where I kind of talk because I have a sauna and I have the cold plunge, and when I would do the cold plunge, I thought I got more benefit out of it than the sauna or the hot tub. But Ivan seems to think that it's just this giant dopamine spike, and I just actually feel better, which I don't think is completely wrong.
I think there's probably something there. I just read a quote. It was from, you gotta remember, I grew up in the 80s, so it was Hulk Hogan.
Okay, yeah.
Hulk Hogan says, he was talking to Arnold Schwarzenegger one time, and Schwarzenegger said, even if you feel like complete crap, get into the weight room, just start doing lighter weights or lighter movements, just get yourself moving, right? And all of a sudden you start falling back into your regular routine. And I think that's an important thing. If you think about what he's talking about there, it goes into why I'm measuring velocities. Your 1 repetition max on your best day will not be your repetition max on your worst day or even a mediocre day.
Yeah.
And that's why sports like track and field, swimming, and Olympic weightlifting, who have really objective measurements and they know the schedule of their competitions, they do very specific things leading up to the competition so that they are peaking at their very best time. Team sports definitely are trying to do the same thing. It's a little more difficult though because you're not looking at one objective measurement. You're looking at a whole game performance or something like that. Okay, but if your total output is always changing, okay, then what you can control is just getting in and getting moving, and that will loosen up connective tissue, dilate blood vessels, get everything to loosen up, get moving. That will actually also soothe the nervous system. So
recovery.
Yeah, but on a bad day, you would be basically just doing an extended warm up. Okay, so if you're really sore, so let's say the 3 of us are working together, and I just destroyed you on squat. Okay. I do my lifting every other day. Okay. So, all right, you guys, it's Monday, just destroyed you. Wednesday, you're going to come in here and you're not going to feel good. I promise you that.
Yeah.
Here's the way I would recommend it. Monday, go home, hit a cold bath, warm yourself back up, hit some static stretching. Tuesday, go do something active. Go walk around the track, go walk up and down the stairs, okay? For you guys, go into the gym and just roll around very slow pace, okay? Wednesday, get back in here, hit the heat before you come in and see me. So now you've already loosened everything up, you're feeling better, you got a lot of blood flow. We're gonna go through an extensive movement dynamic flexibility warm up, really get you limbered up and joints moving far. Then we're gonna go light, or we're gonna go a lighter load, and we probably would even decrease the volume on Wednesday. Wednesday night, finish the lift, go cold bath, and then later in the evening stretch again.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday, roll around, walk, stairs. I do what I call low intensity, high intensity programming.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll do 3 days a week: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, high intensity; Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, low intensity.
Okay.
Low intensity can be as specific as going through a wrestling drill or a throwing drill at 60% speed.
Okay.
Very slow speed, thinking about everything that you want to feel going through that movement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or it can be something very general to sled. I throw a couple plates on the sleds, hook them up, and I just walk back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Walking speed only. I get my heart rate up, elevated a little bit. I'm getting some good cardiovascular, and I'm moving. I'm getting good blood flow.
Yeah.
Walking stairs, cruising on a bicycle. Real easy stuff. But it keeps your body moving.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the cool thing about that is when you do the high intensity, low intensity, alternating like that, it's about 48 hours that your nervous system has to come back and be ready for another explosive workout.
Yeah.
Okay. High intensity. Well, doing those low intensity workouts in between actually preps and helps your central nervous system to recover and get ready to go for what's called super compensation.
Yeah.
Okay. So